Hey Oasis, Pastor Caleb here. Has anyone ever stolen your joke? Maybe you woke up the other day and you just were inspired with the perfect punchline. And then you spent every waking minute while you were getting ready for work parsing out every last detail to make sure that that punchline landed just right. By the time you get to work, you walk up to the front door, you run into your buddy Jeff. And this is your perfect opportunity, your perfect chance. So you tell him the joke, and you both burst into laughter, the sweet sound of reward. But then, later that afternoon, you walk into the break room, perhaps around lunchtime, to get a bite to eat, and you notice a small group of people in the corner who've just burst into laughter, but this time not at something you said, but because of something Jeff told them. Your joke! Jeff just stole your thunder! How are you going to feel about that? Now I know that stealing someone else's joke is kind of an innocuous, mostly harmful thing. But it is an effective way to illustrate our devotional topic for today, and that is gossip. There's a prominent church pastor out in Atlanta, Georgia, who's given us perhaps the best definition of gossip that I've ever heard. He says that gossip is when we tell someone else's stories. We gossip when we share something that perhaps didn't happen to us. Maybe someone else told us that it happened, or someone else told us that it happened to someone else. You see how some of these questions can pretty quickly define for us whether or not the story we're sharing really belongs to us or not. See, the reason that it's so frustrating when Jeff goes out and tells someone else our joke, when he steals our joke, is because, well, he didn't really have anything to do with it. He was just a beneficiary of the funniness that you created. You put in all the work, you put in all the effort. It was your joke to share, and when Jeff steals it from you, that can be a little hurtful, a little frustrating. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, verse 13, it says that a gossip betrays a confidence, while a trustworthy person keeps a secret. And that Hebrew word that we translate for a gossip could also be translated a tale bearer or a storyteller. Someone who tells so many stories that eventually you're not really sure which ones are true and which ones are not true, and which ones might be true but probably shouldn't have been shared to begin with. A gossip is a tale bearer, and it says that a gossip betrays a confidence. Well, a confidence is kind of like a secret, isn't it? It's something that someone has confided in you, but it isn't necessarily meant to be confided in everybody else. I wonder how many conversations in our communities, in our families and friends, center around things that happen to other people, or things that happen to people who aren't in the room. Maybe we heard from someone else that they happened to someone else, and they were confided into someone, and now they're being shared publicly. I wonder if this gives us a little bit of a rule of thumb. Perhaps if we want to avoid being gossips, then maybe we need to assume that everything is a secret, unless we're given express permission or directive to share it. Maybe everything should be considered secretive or a confidence unless we're given express permission to share it. So that thing that your wife said about how she felt when Christy made that comment to Gloria, that's a secret until expressly directed otherwise. Or maybe that time your buddy Jeff, who stole your joke, he was getting back into his car after work and he tripped over the curb and fell flat on his face. Very funny, but a secret until directed otherwise. Gossip is sharing someone else's stories. Maybe we should assume that when people tell us things, it's always in confidence until we've been given express permission to share it. Now there's another English word that we often translate from that Hebrew word for talebearer, and it's the word slander. Now gossip and slander are very, very similar, but there's a key distinctive between the two. When you're gossiping about someone, when you're sharing stories that do not belong to you, and by the end of that story, the person that it does belong to doesn't end up looking all that good. Maybe it makes them look foolish or stupid or mean or cruel or wicked or evil in some way or another. When it defaces them or defames them, well, we'd call that slander. Slander is telling someone else's stories, and by the end of it, they aren't looking so good anymore. And people don't tend to slander themselves. You see, when we have things happen to us that make us look bad, we usually don't stand up on a rooftop and tell everyone about it. Those are the types of things that we like to keep secret. So if you're telling a story and by the end of it someone's not looking too good, that's a really key indicator that you might be getting really close or guilty of slander. Now, why am I talking about this today? You ever heard the phrase an idle tale? When a car is turned on, everything's functioning, right? The pistons are moving, the spark plugs are igniting the fuel, the car is perfectly well running. But it's not going anywhere. Maybe it's in park, maybe it's in gear, but it's not moving. Well, we say the vehicle's idling, right? But what happens when people begin to idle? What happens when a lot of people start to have a whole lot of time that they don't know what to do with? Perhaps there's a global pandemic that shut down some of the stores and the businesses, and we're forced to work from home, and our kids have to go to school from home, and well, we've already finished the big long list of to-dos, that projects we could have get done around the house. We've already taken so many trips to the fridge and eaten all the good snacks, and our spouse is sick and tired of hearing us whine about how bored we are. When a whole community starts to find it difficult to find constructive uses of their time, the risk of gossip and slander can skyrocket. Because all of a sudden you start calling your friends and you start sharing stories that may or may not be true, and they certainly don't belong to you. Hey Bobby, did you hear? Sandy isn't feeling well. Do you think it might be COVID? Well, I sure hope not, because she baked a pie and brought it over to my house and my whole family ate it. See, the fact that Sandy wasn't feeling well might have been confided to you in confidence, not necessarily meant to be shared with the whole world. Yet here we are sharing it with a friend, and we've started sharing things that may or may not be true about it, right? We don't know if she has COVID or not, and especially recognize that by the end of the conversation, how does Sandy look? A little bit irresponsible. Because she wasn't feeling well and she baked a pie, she was trying to be kind, do a nice thing for friends. But if she's not feeling well, if she has COVID, if she's put my family at risk, then what a wicked person. Gossip and slander, the risk of those two things is going to skyrocket every single day that it gets more and more difficult to find constructive uses of our time in this season, and we need to be aware and we need to be cautious not to fall in to that trap. And I know that this is difficult. See, in our culture, perhaps more than in any culture throughout history, information is virtually free. If you want to learn how to build a house, well, you can get on the internet and you can find hundreds of hours of information to help you do just that. Not all that information is going to be trustworthy, but it's not going to cost you anything. If you want to rebuild a 67 Mustang convertible, you can get online, do some research, and find the information to help you do just that. But not all information is meant to be free. Not all information is meant to be shared as easily as that article on Facebook that all you have to do is hit the like button, the share button, and now all your other friends know about it, right? Some things are told to us in confidence. Some things are not our story to tell. The internet is the biggest gossip around. That's exactly why it's so important for you to have control of your privacy settings on your social media accounts like Facebook, because anything you put online could easily become public knowledge without your control or your intent. So maybe we need to be extra cautious in a season like this, to not treat the things that happen to our friends, to our neighbors, to our relatives as if they're that new Facebook article that we just have to hit like and share and everyone else knows about it. Perhaps things that are said to us ought to be assumed to be in confidence unless we're given express permission otherwise. If something happened to you or you were directly involved in it, if you have ownership over that story, that's your right to share. But be cautious about the things you share that do not belong to you. I love you all so much. Have a blessed day.